was a real wonderful and formative experience for me. Look, I worked at very successful high-profile companies before I came to Sarepta. Gilead and Celgene had both operational roles and corporate development roles, and really understood what it took to drive success for a program. So when I came on board Sarepta, at the time it was called AVI. It was a 30-year-old company with a failed legacy. As I thought about the technology, I really thought that, okay, the time was right to do this the right way and to focus on the right application. So that entire experience to turn around a company to really focus on Duchenne muscular dystrophy, we were the first real public company at the time that had their lead program in Duchenne. There were a lot of private companies that are now public, PTC, Prosensa, Summit, Acceleron. All of these had gone public after we raised a profile as a public company for Duchenne. And we were the first ones really to really bring an accelerated approval data set, a small data set, to the FDA when all of the signals were there from Congress, from the talks that the FDA hierarchy was giving out there. But nobody had ever really tested this, if you will, with a division. And the division of neurology, was not one that had a lot of precedent for this kind of creative approaches. You could look at oncology, the division, and how they were looking to be very progressive. But division of neurology was more conservative, right? And I'd say kind of a higher bar. Even the gene therapy, the CBER approaches have gotten a lot more support for small data sets. Avexis, as an example, that has a very compelling clinical data set, more than what we had in our 12-patient study. And so it was a learning process, I think, for everybody involved, for the industry, right? For how patient advocacy was going to interface with the FDA. They took more meetings, the FDA did, with Duchenne advocates than they had with Sarepta, right, during those formative years, 2013, 2014. So, we knew we were on the front end of seeing changes that were happening. And what came out after I left Sarepta was that it wasn't really as much about Sarepta battling the FDA as much as it was about the FDA having their own internal issues around where the hierarchy, and Janet Woodcock specifically, wanted to see these types of reviews go, where the division was holding on to kind of an old way. If you fast forward to today and you look at Scott Gottlieb and Janet's recent communications and kind of recent actions, Amicus as one example, you see that it's an extension of what Sarepta, approval started with. And so, personally, I'm very proud of the effort, we took there to kind of, set the wheels in motion. A lot of the strategy that the company's employing with the morpholino, the exon skipping, with the follow-on peptide chemistry, which we started that program to identify the best peptide. Very proud of that program. They've obviously gone more deep into gene therapy, CRISPR. Since I left, I think it's an interesting approach to try to own the Duchenne space. I worry about so many modalities going after a single rare disease when it starts to challenge, I think, the reimbursement model. How can all of these therapeutics be adopted as combination approaches? If they all want to charge several $100,000s a year, how are you going to maintain that if you end up with a dystrophin exon skipping, a utrophin add-on, a gene therapy people have talked about in combination? I think that the rare disease community still needs to figure out, right, how it's going to withstand successful products. I think the regulators are still going to have to figure out, how do you look for additive benefit when current therapies are adopted and you have to show utility on top of the standard of care? Right now, there's still opportunities to do clinical studies in naive patients, maybe that have been exposed to steroids. But I think, fast forward 5 years from now, that may be more difficult.